one.
Boom! And welcome to Today, brought to you by Boss Shot Shells. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
May 21st, correct?
Yep, May 21st. And on May 21st, there was a gentleman that died.
Always a gentleman.
That died in 1542.
Oh, we're going all the way back.
Can you guess who it was?
1542. Give me Sir Isaac Newton.
Nope. I think Sir Isaac Newton was later than that.
Galileo?
Nope.
I can't think of anybody else important way back when.
Hernando de Soto.
Oh, old lady Soto's boy. Yeah.
Do you know what he did?
You're about to tell us.
He was a Spanish explorer and conquistador who was involved in expeditions in Nicaragua and the Yucatan Peninsula. He played an important role in Francisco Pizarro's conquest of the Inca Empire in Peru, but he is best known for leading the first European expedition deep into the territory of the modern-day United States, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, and most likely Arkansas. He is the first European documented as having crossed the Mississippi River. De Soto's North American expedition was a vast undertaking. It ranged throughout what is now the southeast United States, searching both for gold, which had been reported by various Native American tribes and earlier coastal explorers, and for a passage to China or the Pacific coast. De Soto died in 1542 on the banks of the Mississippi River. Sources disagree on the exact location, whether it was what is now Lake Village, Arkansas, or Faraday, Louisiana. You imagine in 1542 being in the southeastern part of the United States.
No. Mosquitoes are bad here right now. I couldn't imagine that.
He died in May.
Probably from malaria.
And it's crazy to think of all the people that have, we talked about Columbus the other day. It's always in April and May. So I'm assuming that was the season to be exploring.
Columbus died back home.
Well, no, to be exploring, not about his death. Just the exploring time was in May, it seemed like.
Good weather.
De Soto had sailed to the New World with Pedro Aurelius de Villa, appointed as the first governor of Panama in 1520, participated in an expedition to Veragua, and in 1524 participated in the conquest of Nicaragua under Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba. Just crazy that the people that were coming to America, because you always, we're relatively a new country.
Oh, yeah, brand new.
Compared to the rest of the world. But there was a lot of stuff going on in the 14 and 1500s, way before the United States and George Washington. So anyways, that is my person who died on this day. My person that was born on this day is probably one of the sickest individuals that ever lived. He was born May 21st, 1960. He was known as the Milwaukee Cannibal.
Oh, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer was an American serial killer and sex offender who killed and dismembered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991.
I think Gacy's probably worse than Dahmer.
Many of his later murders involved necrophilia, cannibalism, and the permanent preservation of body parts, typically all parts of the skeleton. Although he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, and a psychotic disorder. Who would ever think that Jeffrey Dahmer had some kind of psychotic disorder? Dahmer was found to be legally sane at his trial. He was convicted of 15 of the 16 homicides he committed in Wisconsin and was sentenced to 15 terms of life imprisonment on February 17, 1992. Dahmer was later sentenced to a 16th term of life imprisonment for an additional homicide in Ohio in 78. On November 28th, Dahmer was beaten to death by Christopher Scarver, a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institute in Portage, Wisconsin. I've been to Portage, Wisconsin. You know what's crazy is they should have put his ass to sleep on day one.
Saved a lot of money.
I don't understand that. He was born May 21st, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the first of two sons to Lionel and Marquette. Lionel, who went to Marquette University. His dad was a chemistry student, and his mother was a teletype machine instructor. His dad was busy the whole time he was growing up, going to school. And then when he got out of school, he became a chemist, and he worked all the time. The mother was a hypochondriac who stayed in bed all the time.
And then she left.
Yeah, didn't have very many. He didn't get a lot of attention to anything. His dad took a real interest in him when he come in one time. He loved animals and wanted to know about preserving bones. His dad thought,
that's when you know.
He's going to be a scientist. No, he's going to be a serial killer. Anyways, His first person that he committed was in the murder of, it was in 1978. 3 weeks after his graduation on June 18th, Dahmer picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Mark Hicks, who was 18 years old. Dahmer lured Hicks to his house on the pretext of drinking. Hicks, who had been hitchhiking to a rock concert at Chippewa Lake Park, Ohio, agreed to accompany Dahmer to his house upon the promise of a few beers with Dahmer as he had the house to himself. According to Dahmer, the sight of the bare-chested Hicks standing at the roadside stirred his sexual feelings. Although when Hicks began talking about girls, he knew any sexual passes he made would be rebuffed. After several hours of talking, drinking, and listening to music, Hicks wanted to leave and I didn't want him to leave, Dahmer said. So Dahmer beat him with a dumbbell, and then he raped him and killed him.
Yep.
Anyway, 6 weeks after the murder of Hicks, Dahmer's father and his fiancée returned to his home where they discovered Dahmer living alone. That August, Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State, hoping to major in business. Dahmer's sole term at Ohio State was completely unproductive, largely because of his persistent alcohol abuse. He received failing grades in Introduction to Anthropology, Classical Civilization, and Administrative Science. The only course Dahmer was successful at was riflery, where he received a B grade, or B minus. His overall GPA was 0.45. On one occasion, Lionel paid a surprise visit to his son, only to find his dormitory room strewn with empty liquor bottles. Despite his father having paid in advance for the second term, Dahmer dropped out of OSU after just 3 months. So anyways, he was a drunk, he was gay, he was a serial killer, and he killed 17 people that they know of, and then he was put to rest by one of his fellow inmates, which was a great thing. That was Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, my event that took place on May 21st was when they indicted Sirhan Sirhan.
Oh, yeah.
Now, a lot
Killed
of people...
RFK Sr.
Yes, Sirhan Sirhan was born on March 19th, is a Palestinian Jordanian man who assassinated Senator Robert Kennedy.
Allegedly.
Now, he did shoot at Robert F. Kennedy. There's no doubt about it.
He did do that.
He did shoot at him. He shot 3 times. He hit RFK in the back of the head once and 2 times in the back. Now, a lot of people don't think he did it.
Correct.
A lot of people think that the CIA did it or the FBI.
Yes.
And I'm one of those people that thinks that.
RFK had contact tattoos is what they call, or like basically the gun was up against him whenever he was shot because he had powder burns.
Yes, and you wouldn't have had that from
and you wouldn't have got it. RFK Jr. has a different retelling of it. Like, it was a revolver, right? He shot 6 times or whatever.
With a .22 long rifle Ivor Johnson cadet revolver.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where. You can find it. It's on TikTok. Just type in RFK Sirhan, and there was a bunch in like the door frame behind him.
Yeah, Kennedy was shot 3 times, once in the head and twice in the back, with a 4th bullet passing through his jacket. He died 26 hours later at the Good Samaritan Hospital.
Yeah.
He was actually, they tackled author George Pimpton, Jimmy Breslin, and Pete Hamill for former professional football player Rosie Greer, and 1960 Olympic gold medalist Rayford Johnson were among several men who subdued and disarmed Sirhan after a struggle. So there's no doubt he was in on it.
He was in on it.
But he's not the only one we don't think doing it.
Probably not.
This is the conspiracy theory. The assassination spawned many conspiracy theories, many of which claim there was a second gunman or that Sirhan was not the true killer. In a 2018 interview, the Washington Post, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that he had traveled to California to meet with Sirhan in prison, and then after a relatively long conversation, the details of which he would not disclose, believed that Sirhan did not kill his father and that a second gunman was involved. Even though he was admitted his guilt, they went to court, and there was a guy still fighting for him in the 1980s trying to get it overthrown. So Sirhan's lawyer Lawrence Taylor later argued that Grant Cooper was compromised by conflict of interest and was as a consequence grossly negligent in defense of his client. So it was all about the cop wasn't good, FBI guy wasn't good, but the government wanted him to be. That's what they wanted. So anyways, that was my person that got indicted today was Sirhan Sirhan, who was found guilty of the murder of Robert F. Kennedy Sr., who was probably going to be the next president of the United States. Mm-hmm. If this wouldn't have happened, we probably would not have ever had a Jimmy Carter as president.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that was in '68, so he would have been running against Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon won, and Richard Nixon would have won. But I think that if he wouldn't have been killed, that he would have been the next presidential. So the 76, when I think he would have been elected as the Democrat in 1976. You know that Ed Kennedy wanted to run for president, but his family talked him out of it because they said he would get killed too. And that's why he never ran for president, I think.
Here's RFK explaining it.
It became clear to me, as it would to anybody who read that report, that Sirhan could not have killed my father. Here's what happened, the short story. Sirhan fired 2 shots at my father. He was 5 feet away. There was, as I said, there was absolute mayhem in the kitchen of the Ambassador Hotel. My father just won the primary. He said from the stage, and now it's on to Chicago, which was where the convention was. Then he walks off the stage and he went into a route that was not expected. Waiting in the kitchen in an ambush was Sirhan standing in front of a steam table. And as my father approached the steam table, Sirhan fired at him 2 shots. One of those hit Paul Schrade. The other one went past my father's ear and hit a door jamb behind my father, a wooden door jamb from which it was later removed by the LAPD. Sirhan was then grabbed by 6 men in a dog pile, and he was backed onto the steam table. And his hand, Sirhan, who's a tiny little man, I've been to meet him and visit him in prison. He's the tiniest little guy. But Rafer said he had superhuman strength, and he could not get that gun out of his hand. Sirhan now was pointing the gun away from my father and fired 6 more shots. So there's 8 shots in the barrel. He fired 6 in the other direction, the opposite direction from where my father was. All of those shots hit people. So we know who they hit. We know what happened to all of those bullets. My father was shot 4 times from behind. And
so it's the same scenario as Oswald.
Well, let me just finish.
A patsy and a real shooter.
Right. So he was a distractor. And the real shooter was behind my father. He was a man called Eugene Thanes Cesar, who was a security guard who worked for Lockheed. He was a CIA operative. He was a vocal racist who hated the Kennedys. He was holding my father's arm. He drew his gun.
Right.
And my father was shot 4 times from behind. One of the shots passed through the shoulder pad of his, harmlessly through the shoulder pad of his coat. The other 2 were into his back, and then one behind his ear, which was the fatal shot. And all of the shots had an uphill trajectory. So, and all of them, and this is what the autopsy found, were contact shots. So the barrel of the gun was touching my father's body or his clothing, and they left the discharge left carbon tattoos.
So there you go.
Another CIA cover-up.
No way he could have done it, especially if it is true that all the shots had an upward trajectory. Well, Sirhan's 5 feet away. He's shooting straight on.
Well, if there's 2 shots we know about, and then there's 6 other people that's 8. The revolver held 8 shots, so they're pretty common sense. But they cover shit up all the time.
Once again, that's 12 shots that you got to account for. 8 from Sirhan, and RFK Sr. had 4. He was shot 4 times. So your math ain't mathing.
Nope. Anyways, that's what happened today on May 21st.
All right.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Can I do this other today, Monday?
I guess.
And do you have yours now?